Okay, so that's brilliant. I think I want to now take it from that into the lessons that we've learned. So you mentioned about that kind of, and I love how you kind of summarized the war and the themes that were kind of all implicit in that. Talk to me also about some of the lessons you think on the back of that that we can draw it out from. Some of the lessons even Thucydides you mentioned, but also just like some of the lessons that you can see, especially on that war, before we move on to like how they relate to our current society today.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot to be learned from that war. I mean, for one, obviously what we were just talking about, like the kind of social contract breaking down between people. I think it is important to see where that gets you. If all you care about is burning your opposition, and you know, like even nowadays we see it on like social media. You said that. Oh my God, that's so.
And then they braid her up, or like even like someone does something, and then it's like, oh my God, look at him, laugh at him. Exactly.
Like it's, you know, I get it. Like I too have those moments where I think, this little POS. Like I don't want to see that person. But like, you know, it's like. It's not good to let that take control over you. It's not good to let that, you know, to forget that the people around you, they are your community, whether you like it or not. The people who live in your country, who live in your city, they form what is the community you live in. And if you break that apart, even if you very strongly disagree with them, but if you break that apart, disaster will follow, inevitably. So yeah, I guess one of the major lessons is like, you know, to not forget, like over politics, to not forget everything else that makes you a human being and that gives you connection with other people. One of the other lessons, and I guess that would be a lesson to draw from, like, you know, if you're a world leader, if you're running a country, you know, to not let like posturing and power posing, to not let that drag you into a war you never wanted to commit to in any case anyways, you know. There is a lot to be said for you know, being determined and for protecting your sovereignty and for you know, not letting other people walk over you. I think all of these things are super important, but don't play this game of like, oh, I'm gonna hit back there, then you're gonna hit me back here, and I'm gonna hit back there, and like, you know, these types of exchanges, they never end well. It's like in a bar, you know, if someone comes up to you and like, you know, shoves you and whatever, you have a choice. You have a choice of like pushing them back or just turning around and having a great time with your friends. And you know, this might be a very naive thing for me to say. I mean, I sound probably like a school child right now, but I think sometimes people would do well to remember that you don't have to retaliate every time. You don't have to escalate everything, because it will ultimately lead to a situation that you don't want to find yourself in. So yeah,
I completely agree, and I don't think that's naive at all. I think that's actually the most mature. I think that's the most mature, because we've seen how it ends so many times with this posture and with this kind of attitude. You know, you look what happened to the Greeks. You know, like they kept posturing, they did all this thing, the society disintegrated. Macedonia came in, destroyed everything. Like the foreign power that's coming in to actually take over everything is waiting to see. You know, they say that you know, kingdoms would just, you know, crumble from inside. You know, like you do have, and you mentioned, you had a good point about how it's very easy to, you know, look across the political border or even the ideological border and be like, I hate this person, because there are some people there you really disagree with. You're like, I can't believe you're that person, and, you know, and you have this justification inside of you to, you know, point out their flaws and kind of, you know, make it stick to them. But it also is like, it's a mirror. They're a mirror of you, you know, like in a sense, like if you weren't you, you'd be them, you know. And so it's like you're having that aggression and that anger, you're putting that into the world, you know. And we saw what happened in that civil war, where it just escalates and it escalates and it builds, where you start looking at your own friends weirdly, you start looking at your own family weirdly, and it's like, is that the price you want to pay for just being right? Isn't it easier to find common ground? Isn't it easier to start a dialogue, you know? Like so many points, even at the beginning of this thing, we mentioned how there could have been a conversation for them. That was part of their laws, that we should sit down and actually have this conversation before they go into war. But they didn't do that because the tempers were high and the emotions were involved. So I guess before that, then I think it's something for us to just, you know, take it from the geopolitical war standards to even as human beings in our personal relationships, to understand that, you know, that we can bring it down and actually have conversations.
And actually, like let me kind of like add something to that, because I think it's really important for people to know, obviously, like, you know, there's a lot of things going wrong in the world right now. And it's very important to like not accept that and not just lean back and say, okay, I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to escalate. That's not what I'm saying. You know, do what you can, advocate for what you can. But I guess the main lesson to draw from this is like, still observe the laws and rules of your community, of your society. Try to change them through peaceful means and not just killing people you disagree with. I guess that's more the main point. So if you like, be an activist, by all means, advocate for what you believe in. But violence isn't the solution, and killing the people, like getting rid of the people that you disagree with, is also not the solution, because they'll just make things worse.
Exactly. Okay, and to kind of touch on that point about how similar it is and lessons that we can learn for today, do you think, looking out into the world and looking, like I mentioned before, US and China, but also just all the different kind of wars that are going on, do you think we're in the process of repeating this war? Do you think these are like kind of skirmishes at the beginning, kind of going, so, we need you. Do you think that's what we're doing right now? Obviously, this is just an opinion, and none of us actually know anything about any war plans. Look, we're not journalists being put in group chats.
It's super hard to say, because like as similar as many of the situations are, a lot of it is different as well. Nuclear weapons, for one, they didn't exist back then.
I was going to say.
So like, if Athens had nuclear weapons, Sparta wouldn't have invaded their land willy-nilly. They would have thought, oh, okay, maybe not. So that's going to change a lot, obviously, anyways.
Yeah. But are we heading to what? Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I mean, so yes, I think we are heading towards, I guess we already are in a kind of conflict. And I guess, it's continuing to escalate. Recent changes in the world obviously also kind of contribute to that. Like, there's more instability, more insecurity. Does that mean that we're going to head for a 30-year-long war that's going to decimate all of us? I don't think. I mean, I don't. First of all, I don't hope.
I don't think the Greeks don't either.
But I also think, like with geopolitics being what it is, with the distances being what they are, because I mean, America and the US, is easy to forget they're on the other side of the world with each other. It is so between the two of them, even though they are very similar in a lot of ways to Athens and Sparta, I don't think that kind of like a war like this would break out. Europe and Russia, there's a different argument to be made, I guess. But again, nuclear weapons change the paradigm a lot. I would also hope, I mean, I don't think I believe this anymore, but like, I would hope that people would learn from history, and that, we have all these texts and this evidence, and, maybe there's a way to choose a different path.
See, I would agree with you too, and that's what I would hope. But I think even learning about the Persian War before this they had hot war. They were actually fighting side by side, and they knew what the consequences of war was, and they still went into it. So that's why I think it's very particular. Like some of the actions, some of the things that. That's why I've tried to break it down, and even without even saying anything, I know people will look and see the similarities that for the form of their current current society that we live in today, which is so fascinating. So. Maybe worrying, but I think that's why it's so important to have leadership. Like in times like this, I can't make a difference, but the leaders that are in those positions of power, they need to be able to do what maybe what Pericles did a little bit, and kind of bring a group of people together and say, actually, we're not going to do this because there's a better way. Have that perspective about it. Yeah,
but building something will always be more powerful than destroying something. Let me say it like this.
I completely agree.
Actually, funnily enough, to give you like kind of like a final positive example, like when Athens deposed the 30 tyrants, where like the 30 tyrants killed like 1,000 or even more people, they didn't kill these tyrants. They chose not to go the route that Corcyra went down, and take revenge upon these people. They still faced justice, those people, but they didn't massacre them all in one. And even though Athens was never as strong as it once was, democracy did come back, and people weren't as divided. People weren't as like democracy continued, and people got along. Like I guess I don't know. I don't know.
I know what you mean.
I don't want to tell people what to do or what to think, but that's one example where people chose the non-violent option and they thrived.
I don't think there's anything wrong with pushing a non-violent option just for our sake and the future generations' sake. On that point, actually, What would you think Thucydides would say about the current state of the world today? Obviously, he wrote back then, and he felt a sense of responsibility to kind of like mention this. You know, he had his own arc in story, and he mentioned so many things. What do you think he'll say about if he was alive today?
That's one of the funny things about Thucydides. So Thucydides wrote as an Athenian. So Thucydides is an Athenian. Not only that, he's an Athenian general. So I guess if he lived today and was like in an equivalent situation, he would probably be like an American general or like a Chinese general.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very good question. If Thucydides lived today, I think he'd be both less and more worried. Less worried because like Athenian and Spartan kind of like diplomacy was getting very heated, and people were already very ready to go to war with each other like immediately, you know? And I don't think that we can see this happen today. I mean, people are very hostile, like especially nations are very hostile towards each other, but like they're much more willing to fight it out on like an economical battlefield or like you know, like they're much more willing to consider other options. So I guess that would make him more optimistic. What would make him obviously less optimistic is that we have much more destructive capability nowadays. Also, like, you know, like certain leadership decisions might be kind of risky long term. So I think he would have an interesting mix of opinions.
He would just be like, I don't even know what to think. Final question then. Yeah. What does war, now you've mentioned everything we've talked about today, all those different players, different stages, different actions. What does war teach us about people? What does war teach us about human beings and our desire for power and and like, you know, desire for more, and also teach us about the peace itself and actually what peace can offer to people? What does war teach us about human beings on both sides?
So what Thucydides writes is that war brings out the worst in people. War is a time of great distress, of great poverty usually, and of great violence. And he says that there's kind of that reflects back into the people. People are going to become more violent, more greedy, because they live in more violent and greedy times. That's one of the big things that I agree with Thucydides with wholeheartedly. And to be honest, I don't want to be like, oh, other people don't see this, but a lot of other scholars often say Thucydides is such a cynic. They call him like a kind of like a Nietzschean, power-hungry historian. But I think he's actually very sad about the fact, like he sees that people are put in impossible situations and they're reacting in equally impossible ways. And I think that's one of the great lessons that we can draw from war. It's you know, that it's a bad time. No one gets out of it a better person for it. And the only people who kind of like thrive, I mean, like even the people who thrive, like Brasidas, I mentioned him, right? He was a very successful general. He died as well in the war. He died in a battle against Cleon, where Cleon also died coincidentally. So it was,
they lost to two great people that day.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call Cleon great, but you know, like Cleon died with a wound in his back, indicating that he ran away from the battlefield.
Yeah.
But like, you know, yeah, one of the great lessons about human beings is that you know, we reflect back the circumstances in which we live, in which we are born.
Yes.
So if you want, you know, if you want nice people, if you want good people, then you know, treat them well and treat them nicely, and they will reflect that back to you. I think that is one of the greater things we can learn. And Thucydides, yeah.
I think I completely agree, and I think it shows. I think this war, this whole saga also shows a lot about what the power of peace is. You know, imagine they'd not gone to war. Imagine Sparta today. Imagine Athens today if they'd not decimated themselves. Actually, combined the democracy of Athens and the military might of Sparta, they could have decimated.
The navy of Athens combined with the army of Sparta. Maybe undefeatable. I mean, I don't know. You know, in terms of Greek states,
but they would definitely been able to stand up against Macedonia when Alexander came. Maybe we don't know. But again, these are the things. You know, these are the things you can't see the.
Oh, and also, like you know, people always like to say war helps innovation, war invents greater things. But think about this: like the Athenian Golden Age only lasted until the war. It came in a time of great peace and great prosperity. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And even on that point, like we still study those Greek that golden age because of just what they produce.
Yeah.
We still kind of like, you know, the art, all of it, the sculptures, because of the fact that it was so great.
Yeah.
And to see that get decimated, to see that get destroyed by just, you know, a couple squabbles here and there, and that led it to even, and obviously I'm not from there, so I don't know the emotions behind some of these things, but it kind of feels to me that was a great tragedy to lose all of that.
I agree.
Because of a war. And so I think I completely agree. Peace in that sense is like far more enticing because like make art, make great art, make great sculptures, make more what's the greatest like Greek art, Greek literature for you, do you think?
I mean,
let's end on that. You're not just a historian on for the Peloponnesian War, you actually study all the classics. I mean, let's end on that. What is your favorite piece of art, piece of literature to come out of Greek? This is just a opinion. It's just an opinion now at this point. I'll put you in the spot there now.
I mean, look.